Hey, Sarah, how you doing? Now, this is the first actual room. I want to start trying to host more rooms. I have received certain instructions to begin to do this. So, but I want to use this as a platform to make sure that we are communicating some of the things that have really become a major issue for us. Give me 1 second. So, as I was stating, this topic is a very controversial concept when you start looking at it, because a lot of the things that we tend to do within the space is we grow up hearing this type of terminology. Uh, welcome you guys to the stage. Let me see here, so I can do that. There we go. We tend to um, don't understand the fullness of the depth of how these statements and different things, how they affect us. I remember growing up hearing this, and I think my mother, I'm trying to get her in here, but my mother, she began to flow within that space. Hey, Mashana, how you doing? Um, she began to flow in that space as well to operate from that realm, from learned behavior, from what she was taught as well, that there are certain conversations and certain things that we can go through, but you better not let nobody else know you're going through it at home. And I want to talk about real briefly, basically how this affects us, how this concept has shut us down, and how easily it can become that we down in the space where we're not able to speak or feel as though that we are being heard, or that our lives are valued in that space. So I want to create the space just to, first of all, to go ahead and get back into starting up this particular room or this particular opportunity. If you would like to join the stage, all you have to do is raise your hand. It is on, and I would love for you guys to join the conversation. It is open. I do want to acknowledge Mashana. This is amazing young lady, Mashana Gallo. She has just joined Clubhouse, as well as partnering with me, connecting with me, and so she is a health, mental health professional. Therapist, and so I'm glad that she's here in the room as well. And then y'all see my mommy; she's so beautiful. Hey, mommy, you gotta unmute yourself and say hello, mother. She's like,
Hello, everyone.
thank you for joining me. Uh, but yeah, so if you, like I said, if you would like to join, just hit the raise hand, and then you could join the conversation. But Mashana, talk to us. I know you. This is, I don't know if you, are you in a good space to talk. I'm sorry, I just put you on the spot like that.
Yeah, I'm in a good space to talk. I have about 20 minutes before the next session.
Okay, great. So let's get your take on it. How, you know, I know you've been in doing the therapy and everything. Is how Have you run into any situations with anyone who's had this type of scenario growing up, and can you talk about briefly about how it could affect that process of a person's development?
Okay, I definitely can speak to that. Not just professionally, but personally. I was raised the same way. But I was kind of the black sheep growing up because I broke the mold because I've always been the person that marched to the beat of her own drum. So I cried out for help, and I kept doing it until my parents were forced to get me help. Um, and that was a very I don't know what the word is, but that was a very triggering thing, I guess, for my family because there's so much that's happened in my family, my mom's side, my dad's side, and my biological father's family. So I triggered a whole lot of generational things because I was like, I don't really care what you all are choosing to stuff. Like I was 14 years old and was very self aware that I am not living like this anymore. So from a personal standpoint, it definitely impacted development, how I made, how I had relationships, friendships, how I moved through school. It definitely impacted that and stunted it. And so it was on the back end in my early 20s when I started learning things that I should have learned at a younger age about what was acceptable, what was appropriate, what are things that you don't tell, what are things you do tell. Um, from a professional standpoint, I haven't really heard it too much, ironically, with African American families, but I've actually heard it a lot from the Caucasian clients I have. A lot about how they were taught the same thing, but it's just not, it's an unspoken thing for them. Like black families say it out loud. What happens in this house stays in this house. For them, they're told that, but their community's not allowed to actually publicly declare that they function that way. And so professionally, I have seen it create borderline personality disorders. I have several clients that have PTSD as a result of it. And I mean, the list goes on. I haven't really found a link between that and narcissism, but I'm sure it's there. I just haven't done the research yet to find the actual link between that and narcissism. But a lot of the more anti-social personality disorders is what you typically see that mantra manifesting into in adult life.
Wow. It's interesting you say that, because I find a lot of times when I'm doing sessions with people, some of those very blockers can be statements like this that can be so simple, that has really been embedded so deeply, and you really don't know the depth of how it has affected the person until later on in life, and like now they're trying to be in a relationship. It always shows a little bit of relationship, you know what I mean? It's like
Mhm.
whenever you try to be with somebody else, it's like, oh snap, here we go, red
Mhm.
flag, fire on the plane, traveling to something. We automatically, we can see things there, but a lot of times in those spaces we're so closed off that it's easy for us to point the blame at other people. And so I think that that's very necessary to be able to identify where we come from, and how simple one statement can really set you back in a space for years and years, because you have all this be disobedient, or you don't want to be in a space where you're going against the grain, where people are turning their nose up at you, or you think you're better than everybody else, or all these kind of things. You know how we get into you've heard of people going through victim blaming, where they've been in a space where they come out and they share what their story was and what happened to them, and then the family turns against them, and I can't believe that you brought that out, and I can't believe you did this and said this, and then you get looked at because now the families don't get together no more the way they used to, because now all of it comes out, different things like that. So this one statement, what happens in my house stays in my house, has really set us back, like majorly, in multiple cases. And so I think that this is something that we need to talk about. And so I'm bringing it up because the other thing is we don't find a lot of times that we talk about stuff like this in church, in our environments where we're trying to do the healing or do our connection and have our connections with the spirit and different things. And this is very important because it affects even that space. And so this is the reason why we're creating a room. So I want to hear you. How much more time you got, Michelle? I don't want to take up your time because I know you only got, like you said, you got a call coming up.
About another 15 minutes. But
Okay,
you
great.
touched on something that I was
Hmm.
I wanted to say too. Um, so I always said if I ever went back to school to get a PhD, my dissertation was definitely going to be about the role of the church in mental health.
Mm,
I have had the unique opportunity to see, what we know as the Black church. And
yeah.
then where I got my master's from, I got my master's from the New Orleans Baptist Theological Seminary, which is under the SBC. And I've had the opportunity to see how they function. And I grew up Roman Catholic. So I've kind of seen the gamut.
Wow.
And none of them handle mental health in the way that they should. None of them handle mental health even in the way that the Bible talks about. And that's an interesting concept for me to have grown up in all of these religious institutions all the way through my degrees and not see any of these institutions live out what the Bible talks about. At seminary, ironically, my counseling program, they often called the counseling program the dark side, which was really funny to us because the people on the theological side felt that all you need to do is throw scripture at people and they're not praying hard enough if it doesn't fix itself. And of course, we know that's not how it works, but that is typically how evangelicals, for the most part, look at anything. You're not praying hard enough.
Mm,
You're not reading enough. You're not meditating and spending time with God enough, which we know that isn't the truth. And what we're seeing, I don't know if you all saw the national release that happened last week, but what we're seeing, the amount of abuse inside of the SBC church, and I know the Catholic Church
yes.
has their own thing, but there was, yeah, and so they released the list of perpetrators who've abused people over the years, and they released them individually by state. And so just to see that impact and to know I was at one of those institutions, I was in a program that actively fought and galvanized to change that, on top of fighting the racism, on top of fighting the sexism that I was encountering. And to see that it's not changing in some of these institutions because they don't want it to. And
Right.
so a huge piece of it, because so many more people are spiritual than I think we realize. The church has to get on board with what scripture says. It has to live it out, or we are not going to see things change in the manner we need them to change, or as quick as they need to change. Um, so yeah, that's kind of my soapbox about that one. But
No, absolutely, absolutely. And I think you said something that's very, very powerful. And I think that we as leaders, as spiritual leaders, we have to be aware. One of the things I pride myself on is I don't know everything. I know that sounds crazy. How you pride yourself on not knowing everything? I don't know everything. So what that does is that puts me in a position in an environment as an influencer, as a leader, to put information or bring people who are versed in a certain skill set in front of the people that I'm saying that I'm leading into a space. And what that does is also that challenges me to be in a space where I see things from a different perspective, which is going to in turn help me to be sharpened in certain areas. But I agree 100% that there has not been enough counsel, enough thought form in the as it relates to mental health when it comes down to spirituality, when it comes, especially in the church, in the black community, black church. um, we see a huge number of dismarginalized or people who are being disenfranchised from the very, very environment that has been created, supposedly be created to heal them, has further pushed them into that space of pain. And I think that personally, if we're not willing to reveal that stuff and talk about this stuff, we can never heal from it. We can never come to a place that we will begin to arise from it or begin to establish a system in place that will once again make it safe for the next generation that's coming up inside of this this element of the church to be able to move forward and be successful in their walk, in their personal walks, as well as their spiritual walk within in their identity. So I think that this is something that we definitely need to talk about within our communities and within our leadership boards, the different things, the things that we sit on. This is something that we need to bring up, because we don't always think about it. And against popular belief, we have been going up against our major battle in life, and in this walk, whether you call it Satan, call it the devil, but it has been psychological warfare from the beginning. We've been going through psychological warfare from the beginning, and we're still going through it to this day. And until we identify it, that's what that is, and that's what's happening, we will never begin to receive the power to be able to change it. I was having a conversation with someone earlier, and I was telling them, I said, I think it's very fascinating when it comes down to the scripture. I think it's First Peter 4, I believe it is, where it talks about, tells the husbands, it says, husbands, deal with your wives with what is it called, with understanding. Deal with them with understanding, because they are weaker than you. And this is the language of the King James version of this particular passage. And I was telling my friend, I said the interesting thing about this is the space of how we look at that. When it was written, the type of people it was written to, this was during a certain period of time that was a very male driven, chauvinistic type of spirit that was going, mentality that was going on. So the mental space of those who wrote it, they were in a certain concept when they saw women back then in the biblical days. Women were looked at as objects. They were looked at as something to be traded, something to advance in career. If you had a daughter, then you were supposed to be blessed. If you had multiple daughters, you was really blessed, because then you can leverage your daughter's hand in marriage for land. You can leverage it for property and different things of that sort. And so when we look at this particular passage, that space of us not paying attention to even that wording literally begins to position us to a space, and now we can begin to understand why we see the things that we go through, and why is a happy wife happy life and all this stuff. And now we got this other upbringing of men saying, well, I'm not being heard and everything. And now we got all this issue that's going on because we're not willing to pay attention to the things that we can change, and begin to move in and be effective and be intentional, even as it relates to what we say we believe and what we're standing in. So I'm in a total agreement with you, Mashana. That's a whole lot. I just want to give you a little bit more space before you actually
Okay.
left, so you can speak on, because you're talking real good. So
Um, okay, so you did say something interesting. Well, let me back up. Let me say this. Just a sobering thing that I realized, and I try to always put this on everyone's minds, male, female, whoever in the church. Um, as a black woman, and almost pretty much every black woman I know outside of the Catholic Church, we have never been in a black church where we have not been violated in some way by pastor, bishop, whatever, or leadership. I don't know any black woman outside of the ones that are in the Catholic Church. And that's, I mean, they have already expressed what the Catholic Church has done, but I'm speaking outside of the Catholic Church, of course, for obvious reasons. We do not know what it's like to be in a church where we are not abused to some degree. That is how deep that goes inside of the black church and mental health. Um, so I just kind of always like to put that on everyone's mind when we think about how we interact with people, how we deal with people, how we feel when we look at pastors and leadership. Because I think people are often esteemed so high that they forget that they're humans as well. Um, and I think that sometimes people in leadership forget that they're human as well. And so I just always like to put that out there. The other piece I want to touch on, you said something interesting that I often have a conversation about with other women. And it's become this huge thing in society, this trending thing right now, where women are saying we're reclaiming our femininity, and there are all these TikTok reels where they're saying things like, I am helpless. I need you to carry the bag. I need you to open the door. No, I can't pay for the gas in my car thing. And um, a lot of women, and I'm still kind of figuring out my position, but a lot of women, like the scripture you just talked about, are quickly becoming okay with being the weaker vessel. Not saying that they're weak as a woman or they're weak in their relationship with the Lord, but recognizing we're not equal to men. We want to be loved on. We want to be seen as sensitive. We want to be seen as gentle. We want to return to a time where chivalry was absolutely necessary and not something that we requested, that it just happened because men did it. And so it's just interesting that you use that scripture, because that's one of the scriptures that me and other women often talk about. But we actually want to be seen like that scripture says, to a degree.
Right. And I agree with it. I think that this it's not problematic within this space. But my thought process was this.
Uh-huh.
We do understand that there's a place for the level of respect when
Mm-hmm.
it comes down to the space. And those of you who've been on Clubhouse, you guys know that there's all kinds of rooms, clickbait, where people are talking about, do women want black men, and all these different things, these concepts of are strong women, strong black women, are they too much for black men, or just all kinds of different clickbait type of conversations that be going on. But in these conversations, you hear a disdain from some of the parties in it. You hear this disdain, this hatred, this anger towards men in that type of mentality, in that space. And You see this draw and this disconnect that's going on. One phase we want this, and the other phase we don't. But the ultimately thing that I'm looking at is from the beginning, male and female were created simultaneously from the beginning. In the beginning, the Bible says, He says, "Let us make man in our image and likeness." So He made them male and female instant in Genesis 1. This first concept deals with the space of spirit, deals with the intellectual space of masculine and feminine divine space of spirit, the balance of that space. And I think we forget that a lot of times. And so what I said to my friend was, not only is that there's nothing wrong with that, but it has to be that we both come with mutual understanding that the space of me respecting you enough to be you, to walk in that space as a woman who is strong, a woman that's empowered, to respect you in that space, to allow you to be that, but also the mutual respect is for you to respect that we are both in that space as well, and we are yielding to one another. And I think that that's the place where we forget is submission to one another in that space. So I think that this is great, because even though it seemed like our conversation has derailed from what the topic is, but we're talking about what happens in my house stays in my house. But a lot of these things that we see go on comes from these conversations that we don't have. It comes from the space of me not talking about the abuse, me not talking about the layers of pain, the layers of neglect, the layers of separation and degrees of separation that I've gone through in my past, my life, and how it has affected me, and it affects the way that I see the opposite sex. It affects the way that I interact with business. It affects the way that I interact even on a platonic level or business level, relationships. It affects all these different things. And so I think that this is something that we really need to bring out. And so I'm so glad that you joined the conversation, Mashana. Thank you so much. I want to hear from my mama. This is my mama, y'all. This is my mama, my mima. She's the reason why I'm as crazy as I am. So if you think I'm crazy, blame her. Uh, hey, Ma, how you doing?
I'm good, Josh.
Thank you so much for joining me. So we started this conversation. I think you and I started this conversation briefly on yesterday. We were talking about how some of the things that we've gone through and the shadows of those things, how it affects us on a daily basis. And I told her, I said, I think this would be great for us to have a conversation about this publicly, to be able to bring awareness and bring healing to the parent child element, and also to open the conversation up to get us to start talking. And so I was so gracious that you said, "Yeah, let's do it." So now you're here, you on stage, and you and we doing it. So the topic today is what happens in my house stays in my house. The effects of the silence, the effects of the silence. What do you think about that topic? What do you think about that?
Wow. It's a loaded topic for one. I must say that out of all of my children, you were the one who pointed out to me that that was a phrase that I had used in my home.
Oh yeah.
Um, and as I sit back and I think about it and I look back over my life, I realized that not only not only did I hear that being said to me when I was younger, but I also know that the reason why I said it was because of the shame that I carried from the things that I did, that I did come up against growing up as a child and growing up into my adulthood and everything. So when I became an adult, there was still a stigma of shame that was attached to all of that for me, and so that was the reason why I used the term, "What goes on in my house stays in my house," because I didn't want anybody outside of my house to know what I had gone through or what I had experienced. I didn't want anybody looking at me in a certain type of way or pointing fingers at me. And I can also say that part of that came from the fact that I grew up in church, as most of us did. And when you grow up in church and you're professing to be a Christian, there are just certain things that you're taught that you're not supposed to have named among your name or attached to your character. So I think that's why a lot of people probably use that phrase in their homes, is because of the fact of the shame that comes along with whatever they had gone through. So that's what I have to say as far as starting off. What else do you need to know?
I'm sitting here muted. I thought I wasn't muted. I'm over here just talking, just talking. No, no. I want to say thank you guys so much. Those of you who joined the room, please feel free to share the room, to ping the room. Some people that you know they can benefit from this conversation. I really appreciate you. You can hit the it's a little button down there that has the number 4, look like a box with an arrow on top of it. You can hit that button and hit the share and ping some people or add this to your social media. I would really greatly appreciate it as well. Also, if you want to join Ascend Institute, this will be our room. So if you hit that little green house at the top where it says Ascend Institute, you can join us for all our conversations. I will be doing interviews with different ones and having these real talks. So you're welcome to do that. So real quick, Mom, you absolutely right. What I didn't know was, of course, as a child, I didn't know that you felt that way. And I think, and I've been in a couple rooms, different things, and I've shared with a lot of people. And they always laugh at me when I say this, but I said I remember the moment that I found out that my mother was a woman. And people laugh when I say that because it's like, what do you mean you found out your mother was a woman? And I mean by that was she's human. She was just a woman trying to figure out life and figure out the space of just development into this womanhood. And I thought back on, you were like 20, 21 when you had me, or just turned 21 when you had
Yes.
me. And right after, because I was your birthday gift.
Yeah.
Actually, guys, I'm her birthday gift. Uh, I was an early birthday gift, but I'm a birthday gift. However, but you were just turned 21, and I thought back. What changed me was I thought back to when I was 21, and I remember just trying to figure out life and trying to figure out college and figure out all this stuff. Just what I'm going to do with myself and how am I going to um fend for myself, and what do I really want in life, and what do I really, what I want to pursue. And here you are, you had two of us. It was a different dynamic. And so I know women, y'all are better than us. Don't get me wrong. I know y'all are better than us. I know women are the greatest thing since sliced bread. Y'all can multitask. Y'all can do things better than good to guys. I'm not gonna be one. You'll never hear me deny that. Okay. Uh, but what I realized is you were still in development stages. You were still trying to come into the space of finding your own. And I thought to myself, I'm like, well, how can I hold something against her that happened during her time of development? And I'm trying to extend grace to myself because I don't get it all right. You know what I'm saying? So that changed everything for me. But I wanna just kind of open up the conversation because we talked about, you
So
mentioned.
let me say something real quick
Go
about
ahead.
the. I I started having children at a young age. Previously, before that, I had been told that I needed to have an operation done where I would never have any kids at all. Period. But I didn't listen to the doctor. I told him he was crazy. I wasn't paying him any attention, and I found another doctor. But then after that, I also um, decided to start having children at a young age. And partially that was due to, again, the things that I had gone through in life growing up, and the fact that I was looking for unconditional love. And I knew that if I had children, that I would receive that unconditional love that I wanted so dearly to have, because I was not taught that I needed to have a relationship with God in order to experience that unconditional agape love that I so dearly was searching for, and that I wanted and needed. I was just told that I needed to be a Christian. So, because I didn't have that fully developed relationship with God at the time, I figured if I had children, I would get that unconditional agape love that I so dearly desired, wanted, and truly needed. So that's why I had children at the young age of 20 and 21, not knowing at the time that I was bringing you all into a world that I haven't even really started to begin to navigate. So it was a learning experience, and we all kind of grew together.
Yeah, yeah, we definitely did.
Yeah.
But it's something that you said was um it's so good because one thing I can say about you, Mom, is you've always. And I remember, now that I think about it, when I'm thinking about it, you always was like this too. If you did it, you did it. My mom it was so funny because mom used to say all the time, I ain't gonna be playing with God. I ain't gonna be in church and still doing what I want to do. We'll go back to church whenever I get done, when I get get ready, because I ain't about to play with God, and we ain't gonna be playing with God. So if I did it, I did it. If I said it, I said it. That's what it was. And when I think back on it, I'm laughing at it. But when I
Oh
when
my
I
goodness.
when I get back to it, when I think on it, that was not something that was negative. Like you never really wasted your words, with us. And I remember, as early as around 8, 9, 10 years old, you used to always tell us, I can't raise you to be a man. You used to tell me and my brother that all the time, I can't raise you guys to be men. He said, I could provide for you, I could be here and give you love, but I can't teach you how to be a man. And you used to always say that to us. And I really appreciate that about you, because you spoke your truth. You always spoke your truth. And I think that even with this situation, this conversation that we're having, it's giving you an opportunity to share your story. Also, for people to understand the development as you have grown and expanded throughout those processes. Because I know you shared with me that you like to help young women and different ones who go through certain things to face themselves and be in the space where they could find strength without being feeling as though that they're awful or being victimized because of their past. And so I love this opportunity to be here with you and interviewing you and just having our mama son time because you my mama, and I don't know why you trying to let everybody else call you mama anyway, because you ain't nobody else mama but my mama. That's how I used to
Are
tell
we
my mom.
back?
I
Are
used
we
to have,
back to that now?
yeah, we used to have that conversation all the time, especially in high school. So if anybody in high school with mates come on here listening, remember that I saw it and she was mine first. So no, but we used to have that conversation. But I think that this is a great opportunity. I want to dive more um into your history, like development coming into space, because you didn't just get to a space that you were looking for unconditional love before. It didn't just happen overnight. So how what if you don't mind, what kind of transpired to get you to that space?
Whew, okay. So we have to go back to the beginning.
Oh,
Um,
1966, July 25th.
I'm glad I'm not ashamed of my age because you just told it to
Oh, my
everybody.
bad. I thought you was proud. You look
I
beautiful, mama. What you
am.
talking about, girl? What you
I
talking about?
am. I am proud to be 55, going on 56. I am proud about that. And a lot of the reason why I'm proud about that is because there were many times in my life when I really didn't think I was going to live to see that age. But let's go back to the beginning. I guess I can skip my early childhood up until like the age of 5 or 6. Um, so around the age of 5, around the age of 6.
Oh, I think we lost you a little bit. Maybe you went in a bad area. Can't hear you. Okay, maybe she come back. I don't know if she had a phone call or what, but it's interesting. We're having this discussion. I love my mom. She's a good sport. My mom she always supports me in her loving way, and I'm just excited that she's here. Okay, you back now because you went robotic or something. You just disappeared. You went
Oh,
ghost.
I'm sorry, my phone was ringing. My bad.
Okay, no problem.
So yeah, so I was saying around the age of 6, my mother and I relocated to Columbus, Georgia. I ended up being left with my grandmother as my mother and father journeyed on to um, Phoenix, Arizona, where they went out to start a new life. They were supposed to have been starting a new job, new jobs out that way, as well as securing housing and coming back to get me. But for some reason, it didn't happen that way. I ended up being left there in.
Oh, she got the hotline, man. Everybody want to call her right now when she getting into the middle of it. Um, But once again, I want to say welcome to everybody that's listening in for the very first time. This is the Center Institute's clubhouse, so you guys can hit the little green button all the way at the top. It says Center Institute. You hit that little green button, the green house. It will add you to the community, so you can join the community and join these conversations. But go ahead, Mom. You back now.
Okay, yeah, I'm back. So, um, I started going to school and everything, and at the tender age of 7 was when my life drastically changed because I went instantly from childhood to motherhood. Now, it's not to say that I had my own child. My sister, who is 9 years older than me, gave birth to beautiful little boy. However, she was only 16 at the time. And her being 16 at the time, she felt like she still had the right to live her 16-year-old life, doing what she wanted to do, going where she wanted to go, being who she was, which left me becoming the child's mother because now I got to go to school, come home from second grade, first, second grade, come home, change clothes, and immediately I assume the role of being the mother to this child, this baby that has no one else to take care of him but me,
Wait a minute. Well, hold on. Wait, you a baby yourself, taking care of another baby.
taking care of a baby.
You see, this is the reason why I said women are better than boys. Because when I was 7, I couldn't wipe myself all the way good, and I was still having stains in my drawers. But Mama, you
Yeah,
don't say yeah. Don't agree with it. Don't let them
yeah.
know. Don't let them know I'm still doing.
Yeah, you a little still wet behind the ears, I admit.
Okay, go ahead,
But
Mom. I'm sorry.
so yeah, at the age of 7, here I am coming home from school and taking care of and a baby, literally. Is it not open? Literally taking care of a baby. So I gotta try to do homework. I gotta feed the baby. I gotta burp the baby. I gotta change the baby. I gotta bathe the baby. Make sure the baby's ready for bed at night, so that by the time his actual mother gets home, all she has to do is put the baby in the bed.
Wow.
Right. So the little boy grows up calling me mommy. Um,
Mm.
yeah, the little boy grows up calling me mommy, and I'm constantly having to try to tell him that I'm not your mother, I'm your auntie. And little child that young don't recognize that. They don't understand that. All they know is the person that's taking care of them. To them, that's mommy.
Yeah.
So that was my situation with that. Um, as time goes on, I grow up a little bit older. I start encountering other things in life that um, I should not have to encounter, but because I don't really have the people there in place to watch over me, take care of me the way they should, now I'm being molested by family members that I won't call any names right now.
Good. Good. That's good. Let's keep it. Let's keep it.
Um,
Yeah.
yeah, and then my sister and brother, like they used to like to play these little games where they wanted to punch you. So, needless to say, these little games, uh these little games that they played, I got beat, I got punched in the arm, I got punched in the leg, I got punched in wherever they decided they wanted to punch me, and they thought it was funny. They thought it was fun. It wasn't to me. So,
Wow.
in the process of all of that, everybody that was supposed to have been showing me love and supposed to have been loving on me and nurturing me and stuff, they was doing just the opposite. They was causing me pain. They was causing me hurt. They was causing me agony. And so that's how things led to me being um, at the age of 20, 21, having children or looking for love. um, that agape love that I started looking for. So I'm
Wait.
just
Wait.
kind
Wait.
of
Wait. Wait 1 second. I don't want to jump too fast. You did by this at any point of time did grandma come back or your dad? What happened with that? Because that's a lot. You've already been dropped off. Hold on. Before that, and the reason I'm bringing this out for everybody that's in the room is because we don't know the depths of what. what can happen. I hear this terminology that's thrown around in Clubhouse a lot called triggered, and everybody's talking about I've been triggered. You triggered me, so they use it as a way to just to really spaz out on people. I got triggered, so you just spazzed out. You can't control yourself. But triggering is something that happens within the space that's uncontrollable. It's almost as though sometimes when you lose control, you're not aware of the behavior that happens once something has happened to you. Is it has deeply rooted psychologically within you to a space that you are now kind of out of control, and it can turn into different ways. You can either shut down, you could be different ways. But what I see people happen is they use this terminology incorrectly, and instead of just them just saying, "Hey, I'm angry," or "I'm upset," or "I'm this," "I'm that," they say I'm triggered. And so I wanted to make sure I bring that as a working definition for us in this conversation in this room. But you at the age of 5, 6 are now in a complete different environment. You were with your mom and dad, with my grandfather and my grandmother, and you guys were together. And so for 5 years, 4 or 5 years, you this is what you know. This is all that you know is
Right. And
this
I'm
type of
living this
environment.
perfect little happy little girl life at that time. I went outside, I played, I come inside, I had mommy and daddy, we played, we talked, I had the love that I needed. I was getting all of that. And then
Right.
all of a sudden I get
It's
dropped
taken from you.
off.
Right. So
And
now what you're facing right there in that space is for the first time you're meeting abandonment, and
right,
don't even know what that is, but you know you have this feeling within you of this hole in your heart. And I think that the space of also dealing within that space, then the neglect and now responsibilities add on top of that. So you've already faced abandonment,
right,
you're facing neglect.
right,
It's a type of rejection because you don't have nobody that's there that's receiving you outside of grandma, great grandma Medea,
right,
as much as she could, raising the rest of. I'm kind of giving the backdrop of footnotes for everybody else, catch him up. But back, big, Medea taking care of all you guys.
right.
So you being the baby in that space, and then now you're having to raise a child that's not yours. Can y'all can we just take a second for 1 second and picture that by itself before anything else? This is your life. This is what you're facing. This is what you're going through.
Right.
And the only thing that you do know is to look for that agape love, the space of having someone to love you, someone to care for you, to try to heal you in that space.
Right.
And you're looking for it through the space of connecting to have a child.
Well,
And I,
but because now I'm my grandmother was there.
mhm.
She loved me. I knew she loved me, but she wasn't that affectionate type
Right, right,
person.
right.
She
Hmm.
was, and she wasn't that type of person that was always saying "I love you."
Right.
Very seldom did she take her arms and put her arms around you and hug you or anything like that. But I instinctively knew that she loved me,
Hmm.
you know, from some of the conversations that we've had or from listening to some things that she's even said to me. I knew that she loved me. I knew that she had my best interest at heart, and I knew that she was doing the best that she knew how, based on all the things that she had gone through in life, because she had been molested also in
Mm.
her childhood,
Mm.
but they never talked about it.
So
Nobody
this
ever
is a
knew about it.
generational. Yeah. So
Yeah,
this is a transgenerational traumatic habitual happening that has transpired within the family, have been passed down throughout the generations, and no one talks about it. No one says anything about it, and here you are facing it and being in that space. The reason why we're doing this and we're bringing this out once again for those of you, I hope that no one else is being triggered while we are having this conversation. But what I've come to realize is if you're not able to reveal, you can never heal. You must be willing to express and even look into the pain. those of you who follow me outside of Clubhouse, you guys know, you guys have heard me say that pain was not created to be painful. It comes to show you where there needs to be adjustments. And there's a space of us identifying the pain, to not stay in it, but to identify where there has to be change, or where there needs to be improvement, or things to recognize where there needs to be an adjustment from this feeling that you're going through. And so the reason why we're talking about this is, one, is giving us a segue, because I'm going to tell my story as well, but it's giving me a segue into how I've come into this space of where I am, by going through the history. And I think a lot of times when we, as individuals, when we're going through life, sometimes we're guilty of just being so inundated with what we're going through that we don't understand that people deal with us, whether it be our mothers, our fathers, brothers and our sisters, based upon the fruit of what has been enrooted in them. And we don't always pay attention to that. So my goal in having these discussions is to, for us to be able to track that, so you could do some work, some personal work, taking some time, not to be rushing yourself, not to be afraid of that space, but take some time to begin to go through your story, go through your history, go through that space, to identify the areas of, as early as you can remember, of your parents, of what they go off. Um, but what they've gone through in life, and how those things have affected them to bringing you into this world, before bringing you into this world, and how that has shaped the environment that you were raised in, or shaped the environment that you were developed in, because it makes a difference. It can tell you why you are doing the things you're doing. Why do you feel more prone or more susceptible to feel this way when pressure comes to you, when stress comes to you, different things of that sort. So, I'm, Mom, I didn't even know, this is the first time I've heard you say this, that you were that my uncle and my aunt, and I'm laughing because they weren't that then. They were being who they were as children, or wherever, dealing with what they were dealing with, and how they were dealing with their own abandonment issues, because all of you guys got left at grandma's house, right?
Yes.
So dealing with their abandonment issues and different things as well, how they in turn turned on you as a game to beat up. I never even heard you tell me that. And that's just mind boggling to me, but I can see it and I understand it. But just as simple as that, they think it is a joke, but you're here, you are receiving it from a different place because of what you've gone through. That it wasn't a joke, and I'm saying this because I want to bring mention to this, because there's people that's listening, or that will listen to this recording, um, that don't see how simple some kids, or your nephews, or your, excuse me, your brothers and your sisters, your siblings, how simple something like that can be, so setting you up on a course to go through continual pain. Something as simple as that. Not when you say stop, they don't stop. When you say please don't, they don't. They think it's funny. You know what I'm saying? Those things begin to work at us psychologically, and subconsciously. That brings us to a place that certain things that we go through. I hope this is helping somebody, helping, and I hope it's making sense what I'm saying. But I didn't even know that. This is the first time I heard you say that, because we've talked a couple times about your history, and where you come from, some of the things. But that's the first time I've ever heard you say that they did that. And because
Right.
I've been doing the study that I've been doing, and I've been challenging myself to see things from a different perspective, I see now on a whole nother level some of the things that you were going through as well. So I'm sorry. Please continue.
Right. So, um, needless to say, as all this stuff is going on, as a child, I realized that there's something, I know that there's something not right that's going on within me, because there were moments where I would go off in a room and sit in a corner and just cry for no apparent reason at all. So that's how come when I did start going to therapy, I was able to tell them, hey, I've been dealing with depression since I was a little girl,
Mm,
because I knew something was wrong, but I wasn't sure what it was. All I know is I would sit in the corner and I would cry. And when my grandma would be like, "What you crying about?" I miss my mommy, I miss my daddy, that type thing. Um, but it was more, it was actually a deeper level than just that, because I didn't bother to tell her about the other things that was going on, the little stupid
Mm-hmm.
games that was being played, some of the other things that I was made to do because of this stupid little game that they wanted to play, because if you didn't get hit, then you had to do other little stupid things that they tell you had to do. And so there were times that I would just do whatever it was they wanted me to do just to keep them from beating me. Because there were times when they would hit me so hard. You know how we used to say you get a frog in your arm, you
Mm-hmm.
get that butt, yeah. And that's how hard they would hit me. And it was like, okay, well, I don't feel like being beat today. So what you want me to do? I'll just go do whatever it is you want me to do. And so then there were demeaning
Wow.
things that they would have me to do in those situations. Um, but as I got older, my mother finally came back. Well, my mom and dad both came back. I was right around 11 years old, going on 12, and we moved to Atlanta, with Forest Park, which is part of Atlanta. Stayed there for about a half of a year, and then my mother and I ended back up in Columbus, Georgia, because that was when my mother and my father split. They went their separate ways. And because of the choice that they decided to make on their own concerning me, I was told that I was better off. My mom said I was better off with her. Let's just put it that way. I found out many, many, many years later, that my dad really wanted me to go with him. Um, so now here I am back in this God, as I called it, this God-forsaken place that I did not like, feeling like I was trapped inside of a box. I felt like a caged animal that wanted to just break loose and could not get loose because of all the trauma that I had endured from the little time that I was there, from the age of 6 to 11, 12 years old. Um, so I'm back there. I'm in school now. I'm in a higher level of school. I'm in middle school at this point, and in the process of being in middle school, um, my mother now is, instead of being in place and giving me the nurturing type of love that I needed from her, she is really not there for me at all. I had no one I could talk to. I had nobody that I trusted, that I could go to and tell my problems or what was going on with me or anything to, because when I tried to talk to my mom, she in return would tell it to other people, and then everybody in church knew about it by the time I got to church on Sunday.
Wait a minute. Hold on. Wait a second. Hold on. Red flag. Brr, foul on the play. So now you've hold on. I'm just trying to catch this all up. You've gone through abandonment. You've gone through rejection. You've gone through neglect. You've gone through all this pain. You've gone through depression already at an early age. Your mom comes back. Then you're back. You're connected with your dad. You're back in that kind of seem like that happy place. And then all of a sudden they split up. So now your father is being presented to you that your father is not good enough or is not qualified to be there for you. Um,
Pretty
and
much, yeah.
and,
And
and you're
her dislike of him, of the two of them not being together, just, I guess, made it kind of harder for me, because she was always telling me, "You look just like your daddy. You act
yeah,
just like your daddy." And so that kind of put a really bad taste in my mouth towards my father.
right,
Cause now I'm thinking that my father done just threw me away, done kicked me to the curb, and he don't want me no more.
right, and we gotta be careful of that as parents, because something as simple as that, you know, if you ever those of you who are or single mothers, single parents, to not to make sure that we are allowing the child enough space to discover what they're going to discover about their parent. And what I mean by that is sometimes they may be bad fathers, they may be bad mothers, but you never want to be in that space where you are causing that child to look at their parent in that manner. And the reason being is because it could set them back. Them having that space of finding that out, that information on their own by going through trial and error, it's better for them to develop in that space than what it is for you. And I want to say this publicly about you, mom. You've never talked about my dad in a bad way. You've never once that I can recall. You probably said I got a big head like him. That was about it. Um, got your dad's head. You know what I mean? But that's about the only thing that you've ever said. I can never recall. Oh, no, 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 no. I take it back. You say, oh, you get that from your dad. That aggravating because I like that. I like that. I'm a little aggravating, you guys. I don't know if you can tell by my personality. But I could just be like just nitpicking, like yeah, just point at you, pokey, 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 just like being real aggravated. But it's funny and it's laughing is laughing, but it's like, oh, you're so aggravating. But but she says, you say you got that from your dad. She used to say that to me all the time. But there was never nothing negative about my father that you would ever say, and I appreciate that for you, from you, because um, when it came time for me to face him and deal with him on my own, I never had nothing stopping me to block me from reaching out to him and trying to build that connection. And so I want to say thank you publicly for that. But I think it's we could do a lot of damage, a lot more damage than we think we can when we do that type of stuff. Whether it be it's true or not, I'm not. We're not talking about. I know that it sound like it's kind of unfair. Well, why would you say that's not fair? And he ain't been there, and he ain't did this, and he ain't did that, or she ain't do this. But the truth of the matter is we could do more damage to that child's development than we would do good by speaking on that and speaking in that manner. And that's just my supposition, my thought form. You could do what you want to do, of course, but for the development of a healthy mind for that child, I think it's important to always try to, in your best interest and the best interest of the child, to create a positive outlook of their father, even if is he got some nice shoes or something. I know I'm being. Let me stop cracking jokes. But anyway, so your father is now removed from your life, and then it's almost as though you got taxed for his decision not to be with grandma.
I did. I did. The slightest little thing I did reminded her of him. And so she would make all kinds of negative connotations. You look just like him, you act just like him. Um, he wasn't this and he wasn't that. She would say there were times when she would talk about how he wasn't no good. She would say all kinds of nasty things about him. And I kind of gathered that maybe she was saying it. I don't know if she was saying it to actually really hurt me. Um, and I don't even think she knew how much she was hurting me, how much damage she was doing to me by making those comments about my father to me like that, because I my dad was the king of the world to me. During the time that we were together, he was my all in all. He was my king, he was my world.
Mm.
He was the one that I saw as to present what a true man is supposed to be, or you know what I'm saying, the example of what a real man was. That's who he was to me. And all of that just kind of got snatched away from me.
Wow.
It got snatched away from me, and then those comments that she was making about him, that just damaged it even the more in my psyche about, so
No, I
as
mean, but
I'm
even
growing.
even in the space of you feeling having some type of hope that somebody's out there that loves you, that's now being robbed from you as well.
That hope was gone by the time I hit 12 years old. That hope was gone.
Wow.
I didn't think there was anybody out there that could love me the way I desired to be loved. I honestly didn't. I not to say that I didn't have some relationships, and not to say that I didn't love some people, but I never received the kind of love that I truly desired. So that void of that love that I really truly desired was just there. And
Mm.
it stayed there for a long time, for a very, very long time. Um, but then, like I said, then at the age, while I was in middle school, like I said, I didn't have anybody I could talk to, because my mother was not somebody that I could confide anything in. That's how she got the nickname refrigerator, a bad
Oh Lord,
refrigerator. Yeah, because
Lord help
we
us.
call her a bad refrigerator because she can't hold nothing.
I didn't
A
know.
bad refrigerator spoils everything that's inside of it.
Lord have mercy. I've never heard that, but I'm gonna use it now.
I promise you, that's what we used to call her. We used to talk to when we talked to each other. We would be like, "You can't tell mom nothing because she can't hold nothing. She like a bad refrigerator."
Mm.
And it's true because I tried confiding something to her, and like I said, by the time that Sunday rolled around, everybody in the church knew about it, and it was embarrassing for me. So,
Let's take a second here and look at her for a second,
oh
if we
Lord.
can. I know, right? What from anything that you remember, what can you piece together in your development, because you've grown through a lot. You're 55 now. You've grown a lot, and in your time of development, of mental development, what can you look back and think about grandma? What will be your psychoanalyzation in that situation of why she would do something like that?
Um, be out of pain and hurt that she from that let's see, unresolved issues in her life.
Hmm.
um I After I got older, I found out that she too had been molested.
Hmm.
Not only that, but she had been in an abusive relationship. I think her first husband used to beat her.
Mm.
But her reason for marrying her first husband, or her only husband, because that's the only time she's been married, honestly.
Yeah.
Um, her reasoning for marrying was because she was trying to get away from the family. She was trying
Mm.
to run. She was trying to run away from that element of where she had been abused.
Wow.
And so, in the process of her running, she got into this marriage. She was young when she got married. She was young. I think she was like in her late teens
Mm.
when she got married, and they went. He was military,
Hmm.
um, but I think, like I said, I think if I'm not mistaken, I think he was a little abusive to her, and so that was why the two of them didn't stay together. Um, then she became involved with my brother Ivan's father. I don't know what that situation was all about. I have no idea. And then I know she was involved with my father, for which they lived together for
They
I
had a
don't know
good old
how many
good old
years.
common law marriage. That's what they used to have back in the a good common law marriage. Uh,
Exactly. That's how she adopted the last name Mills.
hmm.
And so they seem, for the most part, from what I could see when I was around them, they seemed like they got along very well together. They seemed like they had a good relationship. But again, if you got unresolved issues, and you got underlying issues and unresolved hurt, pain, anger, distrust, or whatever in your life, even if you're in a good relationship, it can go bad because you haven't dealt with all of that first. You
Absolutely.
gotta take the time to deal with stuff that you've gone through, and to heal through that stuff in order to go to another relationship. Because if you don't, you take all that baggage with you, and now here you are in a relationship, a new relationship with all this baggage, and you end up either messing that relationship up, or you end up possibly hurting that person,
Yeah.
causing trauma in their lives because of your issues.
Right. I want to
So
say I thank God that I was born in this time, because I don't think I would have made it back then, because the way that you guys dealt with things, even with grandma, and coming to you, because here it is, you find yourself kind of like in the same cycle, doing the same thing, looking for love in all the wrong places, and we could just use that, chop it up as that for right now.
I
um
literally did that though.
but you did that space, but it was the same thing that she did before you. And the problem
Right.
with that is when we don't expose our stories, especially to our children, and share with them, where we are and what has happened, not just the good stuff, because we always want to show the good stuff all the time, we always want to talk the
Right.
good stuff, but being transparent and straight up, because and that's one thing that you did practice with us. You talked to us straight up. You was like, hey, such and such and such. You was like straightforward with us about things, and I really appreciate that too, because it helped us not repeat some certain things that you went through, and how you struggle, even in the space of you going through what you were going through, in depression, and we'll get into that a little bit later. But you still was cognitive of the fact that you went through certain levels of pain that you didn't want us to go through, and um you would tell us certain things to prepare us for certain things, and to try to make sure we was good. And so I was really appreciative of that, from you as well, because there's a lot of things I see a lot of people go through that keep repeating the cycles, because they parents just won't talk to them and tell them what's going on. So it's important for us, even the good, not just the good stuff, but even the stuff that's taboo, that's bad, to
The hard
just
conversations.
yeah, have that hard conversation, that hard heart to heart, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And sharing it with them, because there I'm pretty sure that there's a lot of us that's listening to this, or that will listen to this later on, that you wish you had known some of the stuff you found out later on, but nobody told you, nobody just shared it with you beforehand and warned you about it, and so you bumped your head, and it's like, oh my God, that was a big old bump. Now you kind of got this big swollen head, and you're like, man, this thing is still sore. So if anybody look like they're going to touch you in that area, you're still sore by it. And I
Right.
think that that comes from us not being willing to be vulnerable. Vulnerability is so important for healing, and for development of the next culture and for the next generation. Learning to be vulnerable, and it shows control strength, it shows humility, it shows the ability to transmit and to grow from that. And I think, to kind of answer that, devil's advocate, the reason why we don't is because a lot of us don't go through the necessary stages of healing to actually be in a space that we can learn a lesson to share with the next generation. So that's
But then
interesting that that
again,
just came to me.
most people see vulnerability as a weakness.
Mm.
And it honestly isn't, because I view vulnerability as a strength. I do, because I'm able to be vulnerable with you about what I went through, what I've gone, what I've dealt with, how I overcame it, what steps I took to go through the processes of everything. And not only does my talking about it help strengthens me in those areas, or help strengthens me to do better next time, it also gives that other person the strength to be able to say, hey, if this person can go through this and still make it out and they doing pretty good, then I'm sure I can do it too. So I see it as a strength. And that was one of the things that I thought when I found out that the other ladies in my family had gone through the molestation that they had gone through. My first question was, how come nobody tried to stop it? That made no sense to me. Why you gonna let it just continually perpetuate and go on in a cycle? When I had my daughter, I told them, I said, you know what? It ends right here. I told God, I said, God, it ends here. It ends with me. This will not happen to my child. Now, not knowing that some issue was gonna happen to my son, because I was taught that boys are boys, they strong and they can take care of themselves. That was how I was taught. That's how I was raised. So that was the belief that I had. And my little silly behind being young at the time, dealing with depression and all the other issues I was going through. I didn't think that my boys was vulnerable to anything like that, but I knew my daughter was, and I did everything in my power to make sure she did not go through that. I
Right.
did. So it is also when it's a generational type thing like that, you also, somebody got to be the one to stand up and say, hey, this doesn't go any further than this.
Right.
I'm not gonna let this go any further than this. I'm gonna expose this. And I actually I exposed my uncle who tried. He tried really, really hard. I was only the only reason I was able to fight him off was because of the fact that he had been drinking. So he was drunk and I was able to push him off of me. But he
Wow.
had me pinned down. And when I got him off of me, I told on him. Now, the information that I told, they laughed about it and said, "Oh, he was just joking. He was just playing with you." Okay, well, see, that's how y'all feel, but that ain't
Wow.
how I feel. So that we gonna do this like this. He will never ever in life have the opportunity to come around me ever again.
Wow.
And I promise you that one day he came knocking on my door, and I stood inside my apartment and watched him knock on my door, and would not unlock my door
Wow.
because he felt like it was okay for him to do those things. Why? Because they allowed him to do it. Why? Because he had done it to my aunts. Why?
Mm.
Because he had, I don't know who, God only knows who else he had done it to.
Wow.
So it was just one of those things. So I made the choice, the conscious choice, that he was not coming around me anymore. I was not going to give him the opportunity to even have a inkling of a chance to try that again with me.
Right.
And I didn't, you know. But back to the middle school thing. Middle school was right around that age where what, 12, 13 years old, 13, 14 years old was when my mother, it's funny now, but my mother looked at me one day. I said something to her, and she looked at me one day and told me that, she said, what she said, you get on my nerves or something, she said. And she told me, she said, I should have took a pen and stuck it in the soft spot of your head when you was a baby
Oh my God.
and let you die, because at that point you would have went back to heaven. But
Whoa.
now if you die, you going to hell.
Whoa.
Ask me how that hit me at the age of 12 years old. Devastated. I was done.
Wow.
I was done. So now I'm getting ready to, at this point,
Hold on, mom. Because everybody be laughing at me when I was like, I be telling stories about my grandma.
my mama mean and evil. I love her
Listen,
dearly, but
I
she
used to
mean and evil.
tell stories about grandma. And people be like, don't call your grandma mean. My grandma was mean, just mean, just like for no reason, just like self hatred. Like I don't know what to really call it, but it was just like she's always said stuff, always done stuff. It's just and it's crazy because my Uncle James, he always thinking about. He's like, no, she had a stroke, and that's why she got like that. My grandma been like that. Listen, my grandma, now she just so happened to be mean in a wheelchair, but that woman was mean. Listen, I mean, I see her make people grown folks cry. I'm like, Lord have mercy, Jesus have mercy. Tell you, that's
Yeah,
crazy.
yeah. So it was at that point there that I decided that I wanted to have a baby,
Mm,
because it was at that time that I realized that that was the only way I was going to get this unconditional love that I so desired and wanted, because nobody else was giving it to me. Now, I didn't get pregnant at that time, not because I didn't try,
wow.
but because God didn't allow it to happen.
Mm,
So we going into high school, I'm still dealing with all these issues of everything that's going on in my family against me. I was the black sheep of the family.
Hmm.
Um, I was mistreated. I was abused. I was misused. All of that. Um, going to some now. I'm in high school. I'm going to high school. I'm trying to do high school, dealing with all my high school um, books and education and stuff that I'm trying to do in high school. I stayed to myself the majority of the time. I was a loner. Um, call myself dating this little young man that mama was head over heels in love with. She thought he was the best thing since sliced bread.
Hmm.
We got along pretty good for the most part. Um, so he's treating me nice and everything. So I'm thinking, okay, finally I got somebody that kind of sort of loves me. So I'm thinking this young man loves me, and I'm okay with that. I am. And I'm going to school, but every now and then I still got to come across my sister who still, for some reason, and I found out years later that the reason why she treated me the way she did was because she said she was jealous of me. Because she said I spent more time with mama than she did.
Wow.
Right. So
She could have
she
had her. No, I was like,
exactly. And I told her that I
Lord
told her
have
that
mercy.
I said, honey, if you needed her that bad, you could have had her. I didn't need her that. I didn't need her like that. I didn't have no problem with sharing. I mean, you could have just had all to yourself. But anyway, she kind of realized that later on what I was talking about, and she was like, "Oh Lord." But anyway, so now I'm still dealing with issues with her because now she has this other son that she's protecting and taking care of and treating like he's just gold or whatever. I don't know what the thing was with her and her second child, but he could do no wrong in her eyesight. And the crazy part about it was the boy was a habitual liar, and he was a thief. He would steal the drawers off of you standing right there in front of
Oh
him.
my God.
That's how good he was. The boy was stealing stuff left and right. And so
Let me tell my cousin like that.
I
He's
can do
reformed.
that.
He's reformed now, guys. He's not
He
like.
is reformed now, and I thank God that he's reformed now. But growing up, that boy was horrible. He was stealing. Not only was he stealing, but he was a habitual liar. And then as he got a little bit older, he went into car theft. He was stealing cars, going on. That's what he ended up doing that bid for,
Hmm.
joyriding. But anyway, he told his mom that I did something to him. So one day on my way to school, I stopped by the house. I stopped by my grandmother's house because she stayed down the street from us. I stopped by my grandma's house to do something, and my sister, when I tell you, she beat me. She grabbed me by my hair. I was in the car. She reached in through the passenger side window, grabbed me by my hair, and literally commenced to beating me with her fist.
Mm.
And I had to go to school that day because I had an exam that I had to take that I could not get out of. So I gathered myself together. I got myself calm enough to go to school. I drove myself to school. I got to school and I went to one of my teachers because there were a couple of teachers that I could talk to. I never would tell anybody everything. I would just tell them bits and pieces of my story or what I wanted them to know at that particular time so that I could get whatever it was I needed from them at that particular time. So this teacher saw me. She's like, "Oh my gosh, what is wrong with you?" And I told her, I said, "I can't." I said, "Can I sit in your class for a little while? I can't go to my next class right now. I just can't." And she said, "Okay." And so she came in. She sat down, and we talked. And I cried. I cried my eyes out. I cried till my eyes was all puffy and red. But I didn't make it to that class that morning. I ended up going to my second period class because that first period class was a wash. But we talked and everything, and she gave me a pass in my class. But that was the kind of stuff that I was still going through, still dealing with. So now, not only am I dealing with the depression and still dealing with the abandonment issue of my father not being there, knowing that if my father was there, there's no way in the world none of this crap would be happening to me. Um, dealing with my sister still acting the fool, treating me wrong, doing everything that she could think of to make my life miserable. And on top of that, I'm in high school having to deal with high school classes that I gotta take.
Mm,
Uh, just craziness, craziness. And the only thing that seemed to be good in my life at that time was my little boyfriend.
mm,
By the time I hit um, my 11th grade year, I was down to English, so I was, instead of me taking junior English on my junior year, I was taking a sophomore English because I had failed my freshman English and had to retake that. Um, still dealing with all my little issues, and on top of that, my boyfriend decided he want to act the fool, and so now we no longer together,
oh Lord, oh little
which
boyfriend.
which led me into sort of a downward spiral from there. And I decided, okay, fine. You know what? I'm done. I'm just done. I'm just gonna have fun. And so I became very promiscuous and I started sleeping around. Again, trying to get pregnant, but didn't happen because God didn't allow it. I didn't actually get pregnant until I had graduated high school. I graduated high school, was going to college, and was working when I got pregnant with Jamal. And at the time that we told my mother that I was pregnant, she hit the fan.
Mm.
She hit the fan. And I was like, what is wrong with you?
Wait. His sister have a baby at 16.
At 16, and nobody says nothing.
Mm,
Nobody says a word. Here I am. I've graduated high school. Not only have I graduated high school, but I'm going to college and I'm working. I
mm.
think I was working two part-time jobs and going to college all at the same time when I got pregnant. And she hit the fan. I could not believe it. I could not believe it.
Some deep things there. Um, wow, that's a lot. It's a
Yeah,
whole lot.
yeah.
Once again, let me reset the room. We are having a conversation with my mother, which we're gonna probably another 15 minutes. We'll probably be ending. Um, but we're having a conversation with my mother, candid conversations. Um, what happens in my house stays in my house. The effects of the silence. What we're talking about, candid interview with my mother, my biological mother, talking about her upbringing and different things, and how she come to this place, and then we're going to be leading that into my story. So you guys can hang out with us. Please, if you have not hit the little green mansion at the top where it says Sin Institute, go ahead and hit that and join the community. We'll probably, I got to just check with mom to see if she's available tomorrow or not. But we probably do a part two on tomorrow, to finish in this space. There's been a lot. There's been a lot. It's been a lot, whole lot. That's this conversation has opened up, and the dialogue has.
It
Um, I-
has.
yeah,
Are there
it's
any questions in the room?
yeah. Let's do that. Let's see. Does anybody want to have any questions? You can hit the raise your hand. You can come up to the stage. You can ask any questions or any comments you want to make. We would love to hear from anybody. Um, if not, you go ahead and hit that. Like I said, hit the little hand and it'll raise it. We'll bring you up to the stage. But if not, then we're going to. I think this is a good pausing spot right here till tomorrow. Because we covered a whole lot, and I think that there's been a lot for us to really take away from this. from the space of just upbringing, dealing with rejection. Like, man, that's some heavy stuff, you know.
Yeah.
Um, Mom, I didn't, man, I had no clue, you know. And I think a lot of times when it comes to our parents, we don't always have a clue of how they got to where they are and why they do the things they do. Sometimes we be in a space where we just on the receiving end of the things that we're seeing, but we don't know their backdrop. We don't know where they've come from. We don't know why they've experienced what they experienced. And so I shared with us earlier. I remember the moment that I realized that you were a woman and not just my mother. And like I said, most people laugh at me when I say that, but it is so true. Because a lot of times parents are not seen as just human beings trying to learn life or go through life. And so within that space of saying that, children can tend to have this resentment in their hearts, and we can struggle with unforgiveness and different things, and we set ourselves back in a lot of cases because we don't necessarily take a good gander at the humanity of our parents, the humanity of our mothers and our fathers. And so being able to do that helps us to find grace, to be able to share grace and be able to share and be able to forgive. To allow that space of where we can begin to see what areas that we need to find within ourselves. Nothing that we go through in life is just about us. It's about the story that we are creating for the next generation, or for those who are in this generation who is looking at your story. A lot of times we get caught up and we get into the mundaneness of thinking that we're just going through just to be going through it. But I'm here to tell you, I hear the organ ringing around. I'm here to tell you that I'm here to tell you that you are not your past. You are not any obstacle, any situation that you have gone through, that does not surmise who you are, does not dictate to you your future. And I want you to take from this situation to know that it is possible. Even though this story has started out so grim and so seems, some people even say so bleak, but it is not over. Standing in the midst of the tyranny, to be resilient. These are the type of terms that's coming to my mind for you, Mom. Resilience, brilliance. Um, Pressure always produced the brilliance and diamonds. And so this place of the opulence that you're shining in this space, and I'm enjoying this, the clarity of the diamond, all that comes from the pressure. And you've gone through that pressure, that now you can look back at your story and you can see the clarity of it and the rarity of what you are, by design, by God. None of this has made you, but you were submitted to this process to discover your own strength. And I'm loving what I'm seeing because you're sharing things in this story that I had no idea that you were going through. But I believe that it's so powerful that it can change the next generation and can change those who are hearing it. My goal is that while we have this conversation, that we'll bring awareness, to bring enlightenment, and to bring awakening, to each and every one that's listening. Please, if you are being blessed by this, consider sharing this room, share this conversation. The replay will be up. I will be posting it, hopefully on Facebook. I'll let you guys know, but always, you will always have access to the old replays if you join that club, the community. If you just hit that little green house up there at the top and say, yes, I want to join the sin community. If you do that, you will always have access to all the replays. Also, if you see that link up there that says Dr. Joshua D. Mills digital business card, I want you to hit that link because that is my 10K card. I need you guys to go ahead and join that. If you want to book a one-on-one session with me, whether it be spiritual advisory or intuitive life coaching, which is when I do what people call prophetic life coaching, as well as I do that as well when it comes down to business as well, prophetic business coaching. We do that as well, so I can help you discover the fullness of your ability, the fullness of your talent, to transmit that into a business that's profitable for you. So if you're interested in that, you can go onto that digital card there, click on it, and you can hit book now, and you can book a time with me on my schedule. Get on the calendar so we can have a conversation. I want to see you be great. There's greatness in you. It wants to come out, but you have to let it out. Finally, if you are in business and you want to 10K your business and get you a 10K card, you want to join as well, you can hit the second link that's right on the right hand side of that business card. It says get your 10K card today. You can join that information as well and join with us. I'm super, super, super elated about what we are doing and what we're embarking upon as an Ascend Institute, a community. The Ascend Institute is a safe place for the development of you. I'm so excited about this discovery and this journey that we're on, the excavation of diving deep into our story and our history. Something you was bringing up, Mom, that I thought was very prevalent in this story, that we don't talk about a lot of times, is something that have recently found out about, called transgenerational trauma. That's what I want to say. Transgenerational trauma, and the effects of trauma and how it affects. And it can be passed down throughout the blood, and it can be passed down throughout the development of a child in the environment, and that's something that's there that we haven't necessarily have dived into and understood fully. They're still trying to figure all this out, but it when we begin to understand the articulation or the concepts of these thought forms, when we be able to look into that, we can begin to see the areas of the habitualness of our decisions, or the cycles, or the constructs that we're raised in, and why we do the things that we do, why we feel the things that we feel. And I think it's very important for us to pay attention to those things as well. So I want to say, mom, mommy, mama, mima, mother, mama, 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 mother, mother. I love you so much. I appreciate
Love
you.
you
Thank you
too.
so much for being a part of this with me. And you, without hesitation, was just like, yeah, let's do it. I'm here with you. Also, you guys, real quick, I need you guys to do me a favor. Click on my mom's picture, hit her face. She's so pretty. Hit that face, and then give her a follow. Hit that follow button on her page. So next time she come on, you guys hear this conversation, you guys can actually be in the space to be with us in the conversation. Okay. I don't want you guys to miss this. Part two is going to be, Mom, how you schedule look like tomorrow?
I'm good.
Okay, so we'll do part two on tomorrow, talking about what happens in my house stays in my house, the effects of the silence. We're going to be dealing with an interview, a candid interview with my mother. I'm super excited. And this is all, like I said, this is just the precursor to telling my story. I'm excited about telling my story as well, because I'm crazy and I'm super excited about it. I love it. I love each and every one of you. I want to say thank you guys so much for listening. I just speak blessings over each and every one of you. Thank you guys for being a part. I speak that there's supernatural favor, and not only that, but that you find the fullness of you, and that you begin to be intentional on loving you in this particular generation, or this juncture of your life. Excuse me, I can't get the words out right. Trying to say this particular juncture in your life. Learn to love you. Learn to invest in you in this season, because guess what? You're worth it, and it's possible. I love each and every one of you. We'll be talking soon.